Good evening. Welcome to the Cabarrus County Board of Education Monday, December 1st work session. I'm Rob Walter, Board Chair, and I'm calling this meeting to order. And I'd like to introduce the folks up here on the dais real quick. To my left, we have our Teacher of the Year and Teacher Liaison, Madison Little. We have Board Member Shannon Lancaster, Board Member Catherine Moore, Board Member Sam Treadaway, our Superintendent, Dr. Kopicki. To my right is Board Vice Chair, Miracle Man, Greg Mills, Board Member Pam Escobar, Board Member Melanie Freeman. So with the introduction, and I want to make sure that we recognize our deputy tonight is Chase Bowers. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. All right, with that, if you'd stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we're moving on to item 3, which is for policy, annual election of Board of Education officers. So that's for the chair and the vice chair for the next year. And I'm going to hand that duty over to our superintendent, Dr. John Kopicki.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. The next order of business is item 3.01 and will be to elect our Board of Education chairperson. And at this time, I will open nominations for Cabarrus County Schools Board Chair.
I would like to.
So are there any nominations for Cabarrus County Schools Board Chair?
I would like to nominate Rob Walter.
Do we need a second?
Do I have a second?
You need a second for nominations.
I'm sorry, you're right. I'm on the vote. You're right. My fault. Are there any other nominations for Cabarrus County Schools Board Chair?
Dr. Kopicki, I make a motion that we close the nominations. That does need a second.
No, I'm just making sure there was. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Okay, I declare the nomination for School Board Chair closed, and I will now call for votes on the nominees. And there's only one affirmation, right?
Yes.
Okay. So by affirmation, Mr. Walters was nominated our Board Chair. Do I have an affirmative vote for Mr. Walters as Board Chair for the next school year? Yes. Any opposition? Congratulations, Mr. Walter. You were the Board Chair. I hand the meeting happily over to you.
I certainly appreciate your trust and patience with me. And we are a board, we are a team. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the election of the vice chair, 3.02. So we'll call for nominations for the board vice chair. Pam.
I would like to nominate Sam Treadaway for his leadership, his resume, and his experience. I think he's demonstrated this last year for all of us that he knows our school district very well. He cares deeply about our students, and he would do anything for all of us up here.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Anybody else?
I'd like to nominate Greg Mills. Both Rob Walter and Greg Mills have had a challenging year with 4 brand new school board members, and they both have had a lot of patience with us. They've answered our phone calls, and I fully believe that Rob Walter has the policy manual memorized after 12 years. And we need that type of leadership. And Greg has also been available, and he does research every topic that we have. So I'd like to nominate Greg Mills for vice chair.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Any other nominations? Okay, well, we have 2 quality candidates. Again, I guess we need a motion and a second that the nominations be closed. Thank you, Shannon. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, so Those in favor of Sam Treadaway as the board vice chair, please raise your hand. Okay, we have 3. Those in favor of Greg Mills as your vice chair, raise your hand. We have 4. Okay, so Greg will remain the vice chair for this upcoming year. Okay, it says here 3.03 call for a brief recess. Do we need the recess, or you do want to recess? Somebody's going to have to make the motion. Thank you. So we have a motion by Shannon, a second by Sam. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we will take a brief 10-minute recess. Okay, we're back after a brief recess, and we're going to move on to item 4, which is setting our agenda, which has been posted on board docs for last week. I need a motion and a second to approve our agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. So a motion by Mr. Mills, a second by Mr. Treadaway. Any further discussion on the agenda? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, we have our agenda set for this evening, and we're going to move on right into one of my favorite parts of the meeting is recognitions. And we got 5.01. We've got a whole group here, which is our Board of Education intern recognitions, and Ms. Escobar is at the podium.
Yes, I want to congratulate all these students who've worked so hard this semester. I want to also thank all the people who have taken the time, the district staff that have taken the time to teach our students about the school district. We are more than just a school district. I said to them that it's an opportunity to learn about jobs and things outside. We are a business too, so we have had the opportunity to learn a lot about the school district this semester. We will continue to do that next semester with a new group of students, but some of these students will come back just to sit in because they're excited about being here. So I have already pre-apologized if I don't pronounce these names correctly, but they are a wonderful group of students, and they were so kind they didn't even want to correct me. So I'm going to say first names. We're going to come up, and I've asked them to shake all of your hands as well because they're the board interns. They're all of our interns. So I'll start with Deeksha. Then Yashwan. And I told parents they could come up and also, here you go. Oh, well, shake hands and we'll come through. Gritikesh. Yes, please. Garvan. Aiden. Hannah. Jose. Anaya. Ishan. Krish. Krishna. Rashmi. Akil. Jalen. Jamie. Shiran, I should say. Deepta. Shrestha. And Veda. Did you go shake, and then we'll come. Where are you? Rashmi, right? Perfect.
Sorry, I'm over.
No, it's okay. That's Jamie. And we're going to go take a picture, but don't hold up the meeting for me. Thank you so much.
Okay, can we have a round of applause for our interns? And also a huge thank you to Ms. Escobar for organizing the opportunities for these students and our staff that takes the time out of their day to make sure they understand all the different operations and parts of the school system. All right, so we will, as they move out to take their picture, we will move on to section 6, which is board chair and superintendent comments. I will keep mine really short, I think, just acknowledging that it's been a difficult couple weeks, but we are getting through it together. We are a team, our teachers, our admin, our service staff, superintendent, board, all of us here have the goal of providing the best education and opportunities for all our students. So the board cares, and just wanted to express our thoughts on that one. And Mr. Mills had asked for a point of privilege, so at this time I'm going to give that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. How do I want to say this? This weekend, one of the things that I was working on was looking at classroom grant proposals. and one of those grant proposals talked about CPR and how you can sort of tell kids the process of CPR, and this teacher even said that a student had come back to her and said, "Oh, I won't be able to save anybody's life because they lack the confidence to step in and do it. You know, they just weren't confident that they would be able to do it." And so having those CPR dummies gives them an opportunity to put hands on that figure and figure out how the mechanics of that works and builds confidence. And that confidence is so important because any hesitance in an emergency situation, it's a life or death situation every second. And why do I say that? Well, it's because 3 weeks ago, after we closed our work session, our business session, and we were in our closed session, the only people that were left in this room were the school board members, our superintendent, our board attorney, and our clerk. And it was at the end of the closed session that I had a cardiac event. I remember going through most of the agenda. I remember us being in the last agenda item, and then after that, I don't remember much else that happened. My next conscious moment was in the hospital. But what I understand now, from talking to all the folks here on this board, what happened was all of them just assembled like the Avengers, just like superheroes, to realize, once they realized what was happening, they all worked together to get me onto the floor, to get me in a position where they could begin to do CPR. Sam Treadaway did chest compression, and Rob Walter did it when he was tired. Everybody had a role. Some people went to cover the doors so that when EMS came in, they would have a clear path to me. I believe Lori was on the line with EMS, with 911, and Dr. Kopicki went to find the AED device. And what they're telling me is that CPR keeps oxygen going to the brain, because 10 minutes without oxygen in the brain, then there's brain damage. So they kept the oxygen going to the brain. Then they brought in that AED device, and that AED device was what I needed to shock my heart back into a correct rhythm. The chief of our county EMS department was one of the first EMS officials on the scene, and he came to see me in the hospital the next day, and he said, 30 years, people don't survive what I went through. And it's because I was here. I don't remember any of it, but it was because I was in this room with all of these extraordinary people who did not hesitate, but jumped right to figuring out what role they could play in ensuring the best outcome for me. And every one of these individuals saved my life. And I want you guys to know that I'm eternally grateful. I had a wonderful Thanksgiving with my family, and I am so grateful to be here again with you guys tonight.
It was a pretty traumatic situation, but everybody came together, a lot of prayers, and a lot of thanks to the cavalry, the EMS. When they showed up, everybody showed up there to take care of. You're in good hands, and we are glad that you are here. You are the miracle man for us. So.
You guys are literally the miracle, because I was just out of it. There was nothing I could do but not die, and you guys were the ones that facilitated that. So.
But it does say a lot to the training that you talked about, that we've gone through that before, and at least kind of had an idea what to go. You weren't perfect with it, but we obviously.
And it was good enough.
It was good enough. So thank you to everybody here. I mean, everybody really came through. All right. So with that, our next one is superintendent comments. Dr. John Kopicki. Okay. So we will save that for next week, and we will move into our report section. And we've got Mr. Brian Cohn with our construction update. Welcome, Brian.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Kopicki. This is our update on the projects we have ongoing over the last couple of months. We'll start with Coultram Webb STEM Elementary School. The concrete masonry units, or the CMU work, is about completed on this project. They've just got miscellaneous work they're doing internally now on some partition walls in the bathrooms and smaller areas. The brick veneer work was scheduled to start in the next 2 weeks, but actually it started today. So we have brickwork ongoing now around the exterior of classroom wing C. Quite a bit of work's taking place in the C wing right now. We've got the exterior spray foam that's going up. We have storefront frames and glazing being installed around the perimeter of that wing. Overhead gypsum drywall is being installed and completed. The blocking is being installed for all of our display devices, for our marker boards, for tack boards. Everything that we mount to the wall, we have to have blocking in the wall. That's being taken care of, as well as hollow metal frames for windows and door openings are being installed in that area. In the B wing, we've got metal stud work started in the B wing, which is the opposite wing in kindergarten and second and third grade. We've got our hydronic pumps being installed in the boiler room now, so they're making preparations to start moving water throughout the building. The roof decking and miscellaneous steel work continues around the building itself on both classroom wings and our big box spaces as well, which is the gym and the dining area. Asphalt paving has been completed on the car rider line and the bus entry, so we've got some surfaces covered up now to give us better access in and out of the site. And a couple weeks ago, we were privileged to be able to tour the Mount Pleasant High School Academy of Architecture and Construction students, their freshman class, because they don't get a lot of opportunities to take field trips. So we were able to tour those students at the site for about an hour one morning. Had them walking around, talking with the contractors, talking with the subcontractors, just kind of hearing their story about how they got to where they are. And then also on 11/10, as most of you are aware, we held the topping out ceremony for the school that was well attended. There's an image of the boiler room and the pumps being installed, and then the image on the left shows the upper level slab on deck. That's the connector corridor in between the two classroom wings. And over the administration space on the right, and then the media center there on the left, finalizing the bar joist installation and some miscellaneous steel work. And these are some shots we grabbed of the students at Coultram Webb. Shout out to Mr. Taylor and his facilities team for helping to get us a trailer long enough to carry the 29-foot steel beam over to Coultram Webb, park it in front of the school, and we coordinated with school staff and had the kids come out with. We started with Sharpies, but Sharpies didn't work, so we navigated to crayons, and crayons actually worked quite well. So we had all these kids out there, everybody from staff and students from every grade level coming out and signing, so it was a really special moment. And then these are just some updated images from the topping out ceremony where Board of Education members and the district leadership and the subcontractors and the project team and everybody that's been associated with the project to date were a part of. There's the beam being raised into place, and after the ceremony, Rogers held a subcontractor appreciation lunch for all of the subs on site and fed them lunch, and that's inside the new gym. And then the beam was set into place, and that's the final resting place in the main corridor at the upper level, so you can get a good vantage of all the signatures when you're standing on the second level looking at it. Here's some shots of the Academy of Architecture and Construction students being toured from Mount Pleasant. You can see they were communicating again with the lead superintendent from Rogers. He's essentially telling him that college was not his pathway, and he started as a laborer with Rogers and has just worked his way up. And so it was neat seeing the kids engage with somebody at that level. And I don't think she gets enough credit, but Stephanie Vaughn, who is kind of the probably the biggest cheerleader, I think, for CTE with this district, was instrumental in helping getting the transportation aligned, getting the students' permission slip signed. I mean, she did all the legwork. We showed up and walked them around, but Stephanie needs to be recognized for what she did. There's an updated image from the November aerials that we take. That's looking at the main staff and visitor parking lot and the car rider line there. You can see following up Grove and down along Spring Street to where it will eventually loop back in front of the school. And then there's a shot looking at the two classroom wings. Classroom wing C is the one on your left. The B wing is on your right. And then the gym and dining just ahead of that as you move towards the front of the school. That's all I have on Coultram Webb. Any questions? Good. All right, we'll move on. Mary Frances Wall. So again, it's similar scopes taking place, interior metal stud work in all areas of this building being installed. The blocking continues as well for all of our amenities and devices that get attached to the wall. Temporary heat is going to be installed in this project because they're going to be ready for drywall work sooner than Coultram Webb is, so they're going to need to put some temporary heat in there to keep things warm and dry. Plumbing, mechanical, electrical trades continue to work on their in-wall and overhead inspections throughout the building. Again, exterior storefront windows are going to be installed in the next 2 to 4 weeks on site. The mechanical units have been installed on the rooftop of the new portion that we built as well as the existing portion. The furniture layout continues to be organized and coordinated with the school staff and our vendor. Lots of different spaces, a lot of transitional administration spaces that we're working through, as well as the pre-K classroom spaces. Brick veneer work is basically completed on this job now. There's just some minor details on columns and things that they're working on for us. Enbridge Gas Company, they've installed the final utility line to the building, so that's kind of a milestone because we'll need that to start running the heat in the building. Drywall material has been delivered to the site, and they're going to be installing that again in the next 2 weeks. Our fire protection contractor continues installing all the flex heads that will eventually tie down into the ceiling grid, as well as the main pipe runs down through the center of the school. And the project continues to track for a May 2026 completion date. Those areas not infilled with any veneer yet are going to be metal panels, kind of the wood grain look similar to what we've done on R. Brown McAllister and Coultram Webb. There's the rooftop units being installed on the left, and you can see the metal stud work going down the corridor there, the main part of the school on the right. The main entrance that you will see coming up, and then there's the units again being set onto place. That's the new portion that we connected into the existing on the right there that they're working on. It's an updated November aerial looking at the front of the school and the staff and visitor parking there, and the new entrance we created across from Warren Street. And then there's another vantage looking down towards Palisade and the lower playground area. Moving on to the Opportunity School. So this project's really picked up pace since they got it dried in and got good bit of work completed. So we're now moved into April for completion on this project. The exterior metal siding and soffit work's about 95% complete. Those were kind of the remaining detail pieces on the outside to button it up. The brick veneer work has been completed. Our storefront frames and glazing are being installed around the exterior as well. They've actually started drywall work inside and are running temporary heat. The fire protection contractor here as well continues all his flex head installation and pipe runs throughout the building. The mechanical rooftop units have been set and installed, and just to remind you, one of those units is a reclaimed unit that we pulled off of Beverly Hills that was fairly new, that we were able to repurpose and use at this site. We're also working on finalizing some interior finish changes with school staff, trying to help brand them a little bit better and give them their own identity throughout the school. We're also working with our furniture dealer as well on this site, laying out these spaces for the classrooms and the admin. The contractor is coordinating some on-site work at the PLC over the holidays that is going to be required because we'll have to shut the bus lane down for the PLC, so we're going to do that over the winter break. And then New Atlantic also hosted a subcontractor appreciation lunch a couple weeks ago for their team on site as well. That's the multi-purpose space inside that'll kind of function as the gym, their dining area, warming kitchen over to the left, and the weight room that we created for them. That's the mechanical screen wall there at the top where our rooftop units are behind that. And again, drywall work and insulation are ongoing throughout the entire building now. It's an updated aerial looking towards the PLC campus. And that's a shot showing that multi-purpose room that we created for them. And then one more updated aerial looking southeast, I believe. Quick update on the fuel farm. So the canopy work has been completed at the new fueling island. You can see there the curb and gutter has been completed around the perimeter. Spatco, who is our petroleum contractor, continues to finalize all the installation of the equipment around that fueling island. Over the next couple of weeks, the asphalt, landscaping, striping, a little bit of fence work that we have to do to button this project up will be completed, weather permitting. The remaining pumps are being installed on the new fueling island where the 20,000 gallon tanks are. And we're working with Matt and his team on scheduling the training that's going to be required for the new equipment. Those are the new diesel tanks, 3 20,000 gallon tanks, and the DEF tank over to the left there. And then quick update on Cox Mill High School. So the track surface has been paved and is completed, and probably in the next 2 weeks they'll start on the rubberized system. We are going to have to just watch the weather to finalize the coating of that surface because we need to be about 55 degrees or higher. But we can go ahead and put the rubberized system down so that if we get into a situation February, early March that they need the track and we just hit a really cold winter, they'll still be able to utilize the track and run on it. So we'll just coordinate and work with school staff and with GeoSurface to make sure we get that done as quickly as we can for them. And then that's all I had. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Cohn. Board members? Sam?
Mr. Cohn, how do the mechanical systems interact at the pre-K, the new versus the existing? How does that?
They're all. It's an entirely new mechanical system. So even though there are multiple units, there's 2 units that we installed, new units we installed on the existing building, 2 units we installed that will serve as the new 25,000 square feet, but they're all brand new units, and they'll all be communicated back through the BAS system that Mr. Taylor and his team will be able to monitor.
So essentially it's a new system.
It is a new system, yes, sir.
Anybody else?
I'm just curious, what do you use for your temporary heating when you had to?
Big heaters.
Okay,
They're basically they're diesel or propane fueled heaters, but they bring a remote tank typically in that's hosed over to the heater, so they're not running what we call a torpedo heater. I mean, that's the old school torpedo heater, but it smelled a lot, it put off some fumes. So they have remote tanks and stuff now. So, yep.
Pam?
Thank you. You're busy.
Yep.
You can tell. So timeline for schools is next school year, right?
Next school year, all schools will come online August of 26. Yes, ma'am.
And then those tanks, like the fuel.
The fuel tanks, yeah.
Is that already up and running? Or?
They're not up and running yet, so we need to get the surface paved in there, and it's just the work to, in full transparency, when we were doing the reclamation on the asphalt, we grabbed one of the diesel lines. They're double sleeved. We grabbed one accidentally. It went too deep, kind of sunk up, and so we had to, had about a week there. We had to repair and relay a line. So, and weather has impacted us some as well, but I would anticipate before the Christmas break, we should be online and running.
Okay,
So,
great. Thank you.
Yep.
And Brian, this presentation's on the website?
It is on the website, yes, and we'll get it uploaded onto the Engage page as well. We have a site on the Engage page.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 7.02. We have W.M. Irvin Elementary Playground, and we have Mr. Chuck Taylor coming to the podium. Welcome, Mr. Taylor.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Kopicki. I'm going to give you a quick update on the W.M. Irvin Playground. Before I get started, if I may, I'd just like to say thank you to all the board members that came to tell me they missed me the last couple of weeks. So, with that, there we go. We're going to do a quick review, have some pictures of the old playground, the new playground, and we're going to discuss a little bit of a brief history of how this project came about. Next slide, please. So at the current stage, we have the PO in place. The equipment is actually being manufactured right now. It should ship December the 12th. Weather permitting, this playground will be installed, hopefully, weather permitting now, as soon as school opens back up after winter break. And the cost of that was $227,715.26. We were able to shave that cost down a little bit by doing some of the work ourselves. So our team is actually going to do the demo on that playground. It saved us a little bit of money. And as you can see by these pictures, a picture paints, or a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Pretty rough. Next slide, please. So this is the manufacturer's concept drawing. It's pretty nice, I have to say. What I would like to say is you can't see in this drawing the ground and the material, so it will be poured rubber and probably a combo of that and some turf. So this playground will be fully accessible for any student regardless of what their needs are. Next slide. So the WM Urban Playground is 25 years old. It's 5 years beyond its longest possible life cycle. And this item was approved last year on the top 36, but as you know, we did a adjustment to that list in order to try to incorporate some of our larger capital items. However, this was number 20 on that list and would have came back to the list for this year, but it would have been a closed playground for the rest of the year. The students wouldn't have had access to it, and as we all know, playgrounds are very important. Do we have any questions?
Questions for Mr. Taylor? Ben?
Thank you. I really like the picture. I'm a visual person, so it helps me to see that, but also I'm excited to know that it's accessible for all students. What's happening right now? So if the students don't have access to the playground now, how do we ensure that that's not happening?
How do we ensure it's not
Yeah,
happening?
like has the I guess
How
the
do we
demo,
ensure they're not utilizing
right,
the bad
the kid,
playground?
right.
It's taped off, and the
Okay.
teachers know that it's not accessible.
Greg?
One of the things I think I recall from when we toured the school, it was one of the first schools we toured, I think, when new board members came onto the board. One of the issues was like fences or whatever to keep kids from sort of getting away from the playground. We don't see that in sort of the mock-up. Is that all planned? That there'll be, for lack of a better word, some kind of containment?
For this particular playground, if there is a fence there now, it will be once we install this one, but that's something we would consider when we do those walkthroughs and we discuss it with school admin.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So looking at the diagram, you can't really tell. Is this larger than the existing playground? You need more
I
space
believe it
for
has quite a bit more capacity than the one that's there now.
So you have to make a bigger containment area for it? Is that?
A little. It's negligible, though. I mean, in the scheme of things, dealing with fencing, it wouldn't make a huge difference.
Okay. Is that something we do, or is that something the contractor's doing?
That's something we would probably do ourselves.
Okay. Okay, Sam?
So, one of the things bouncing around to school I saw was water management as an issue on a lot of the playgrounds. And I would think that rubber stuff is probably better than mulch, I would think.
Much better.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I saw too often, was that the playground was in good shape, but just the substrate was just, bogged down. And I would think that's pretty expensive as well, the rubber stuff, as opposed to mulch.
It is much more expensive than mulch. However, the benefits from it, as you said, we can shape it and contour it, and it really allows us to move that water like you're talking about. But it also holds up better than grass with constant student playing on it.
Okay, well, thank you for the update, Mr. Taylor.
All right, thank you.
We will move on to 7.03, which is our monthly budget summary, and we have Mr. Phil Penn coming to the podium. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Dr. Kopicki. This will be a bit of a boring update, but as we say in the finance world, boring is good. Not a lot has transpired in the past month in terms of our budget development. The good news is we continue to track very closely to budget with no significant changes during that last 3 or 4 weeks since I last spoke to you. Not to go into a huge amount of detail on this, but I did acknowledge in the memo the cooperation we received from the county offices around cash flow. Cash flow has become a bit of an issue we need to pay a little more attention to than we have in past years, mostly on the decline in fund balance. So the decline in fund balance obviously has an associated cash amount that's attached to that. As that's dropped, one of the things that we have to plan for is in November, we issue our first of 2 semi-annual payments of the supplement to our certified staff, that are teachers. That's a multi-million-dollar payment, and frankly, we just didn't accumulate enough cash going into this year, whereas before in past years we would have had plenty of cash and reserves to cover that. So one of the things that we were able to discuss with the county is doing 150% of their normal monthly appropriation in the month of November. That'll be offset by a 50% appropriation in December. So obviously between the 2 months you get back to the 100% for both. So that actually worked out fairly well. The payment was issued on time, which is good news. We'll continue to watch our cash through the month of December, and that will have no impact on the June payment because by then we will have received 100% of the county's appropriation. But I was particularly encouraged by the cooperation that we had from the county when we approached them about this issue. So the rest of the package is sort of what you're used to seeing on a standard report from us. The beginning balance of the budget, adjustments that have been made over that time frame, current budget balance, which takes us to our year-to-date expenses, our POs and encumbrances, and you can see most of those encumbrances are in capital and those related to our construction projects. And the unencumbered balance still remains of about $319 million out of the budget of $536. We can roll down to the next one. Is basically the same thing but broken out by purpose code in a little more detail, but basically tells the same story. And then the next exhibit that follows on after that, and it's the multi-page one, is the one you've gotten used to seeing from me now. We break through a lot of detail around the local budget, which I think the board has been receptive, positively received in terms of the detail that we're now providing. I was at the Board of Commissioners meeting earlier tonight and did actually call out to the public that these documents are now available on our website and have been for the past few months, increasing the transparency about how the local budget is being spent. But questions on the update, if you have any.
Board members? Pam?
Thanks for that update. Was it well received when you shared that with the commissioners?
If I was reading the body language correctly, I believe so.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sam?
Mr. Chair, I know you and Mr. Mills meet with the leadership, with the county commissioners and their staff, but in these uncertain times, it is just really pleasant to see their cooperation in helping us, and that teamwork really pays off for everyone. And I know you'll relay that firsthand, but I just wanted to point that out.
I'd like to second that too, so our teachers get paid on time. That's nice that they got their bonuses, and really it's communication, and they know we're expressing what our needs are, so they're well aware,
That's right.
and they look for solutions, so that's really appreciated as well. So no surprises this year. We're very pleased with that. Any other questions on? All right. Well, that's the end of the report section. We will move on to the items for consent or action at our business meeting next week. And Mr. Penn, you're staying at the podium. We have 8.01, which is the 2025-26 budget amendment number 2.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, budget amendment number 2, and as the memo highlights, we're going to affect funds 1, 3, 4, and 8. I'll just go through the highlights there real quickly. State Public School Fund had an increase of almost $600,000, the bulk of which came through for the state connectivity grant and our special state reserve for children with disabilities. And you'll see the comparative figures that are attached to that in the memo as well. We did receive a small amount of money for school bus illuminated and extended stop arms and an increase in our allotment for early grade reading proficiency of $3,300. But overall, as I said, an increase of about 600,000. Federal funds, Fund 3, we recorded an increase of 21,000. That was an additional funding for CTE, Career and Technical Education, of about $38,000, partially offset by a reversion of about $16,000 from a 2024 IDEA Special Targeted Needs Assistance Grant. And I sort of explained at the Finance Committee meeting that reversion was related to something we were told was an eligible expense and then later told it was not an eligible expense. Right? Local Capital, Fund 4, total increase of $228,000. This is where we just talked about with the Irvin Elementary School. This is how we were able to put it together, the financing on that. We had a little bit of leftover money from a project for the Cabarrus Health Science Initiative for $19,000. We were able to tap capital contingency account for $95,000. And then we drew down fund balance from the capital account of $114,000 to basically get you to the total project value of $228,000. The exact number was in Mr. Taylor's presentation, but it rounds to $228,000. So that was actually something that worked out fairly well for us. When it's something like this, we've got the ability to go back to the county and seek their approval for doing these types of funding when we have an emergency need like this. It did not have to go to the commissioners. It only has to go to the commissioners if the funding source is different between what you're putting together. In other words, if it's something that's pay-as-you-go versus debt funding and you're crossing over those, that requires county commissioner approval. In this case, it did not, so it did not need it. It was just the acting county manager was able to approve this for us, which then set in motion fairly quickly the ability to do this repair and get the playground back in service for the kids at the school, which was kind of nice. Okay. And then lastly, Fund 8, that's our special revenue and grants fund, increase of $5,000 for a Confucius Classroom grant that was awarded to Cox Mill Elementary. So across all those 4 different funds, you have changes now of an increase of $717,997, pushes our total budget to $536.7 million rather. Okay. And then the rest of the pages have the detail attached to the budget amendment I'm asking for approval at the next meeting. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Penn. Any questions from board members? Okay, are we okay with this on consent, or you want it on action? Consent? Consent? All right, we'll add that to our consent agenda for next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 8.02, which is our policies for first read. Our policy committee has been pretty busy. We've got 10 of these on first reads, and we're welcoming Dr. Sandy Ward to the podium. Welcome.
Good evening, Board Chair, Dr. Kopicki, board members, and Ms. Little. Mr. Mills, we are so glad to have you back. We missed you at our last policy meeting. We weren't aware what was happening at that point, but once we found out, we definitely sent some prayers up to you. So it's good to see you back. All right, we were busy in our last meeting. We had 10 or more policies up for first read. I did not receive any questions, so I will go through a review.
Can you go through what the changes are?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to go through a review. All right. Policy, let's see, 2125, 7315, confidential information. This came from our fall 2025 PLS update. It created a new section C to add statutory language, which was required. We made some clarifying changes in section D, and we updated legal references. So that was 2125. All right, next we had 3101 dual enrollment, also part of fall 2025. It added language regarding the new career and college ready pathways in section A, which was required, and we also updated legal references. Policy 3220, technology in the education program, also part of fall 2025. Moved some information around in the opening paragraph. We added new statutory requirements in section A. 3226, 4205. We received some changes after our team met, so we decided we would table this policy until next month so that we can get full eyes on this, and we'll bring it back next month. Policy 3227, 7322, web page development. This was summer 2025. It clarifies that the school system is not responsible for the personal websites or web pages created or maintained by members of the Board of Education, in addition to those students, employees, parents, groups, or organizations. So that was a recommended revision, and we accepted that revision. All right, 3210, it's been around a while, it keeps coming back. Parental inspection of and objection to instructional materials. This was in our summer 2025 PLS update. Lots of different revisions. Some of the highlights, it clarifies that references to parents includes legal guardians and other caregivers. Another big one, it adds a reference to 3510. That is religious education. It adds a new state law requirement that titles of all library books at a school should be accessible through a catalog on the school's main webpage. And so parents have the right to be able to view the catalog and decide whether or not students can check out books. So lots of big things there. We also updated legal and cross-references. 3620, this is one we've seen before, extracurricular activities and student organizations. This one came back to us after we did some more work with our team, and we have decided, in accordance to a new state law, we prohibit students from sharing sleeping quarters with anyone of the other biological sex during any activity or event authorized by the school, unless the member of the other biological sex is a student's immediate family member, half siblings and things of that nature. That was a required change that we accepted, and we also added any stipulations to that would have to be approved by our superintendent and or designate. 5070, 7350, public records, retention, release, and disposition. This was our summer 25 update. It updates the description of public record information and employee personnel files in accordance with the change to the new state law. So we want to make sure we're following the law. 7100, recruitment and selection of personnel, summer 2025. It adds statutory information about criminal history checks. So lots of things there, keeping our people safe. We also updated legal references. And last but not least, for our new policies, 6330, insurance for student transportation, which was spring 2025. And we added language to require liability coverage for vehicles leased or rented by our school system.
So you're asking that 3226 be tabled, so that would not be.
Yeah, there was a change that came in after our meeting, and so we just wanted to make sure our team could get our.
Okay, so we'll take that one. Not going to consider that for next week. So the other 9 of these, board members, any questions? Do we want to put these on consent? Okay, so these are going to be added to the consent agenda, and again, these are policies that we will be changing after second read. They'll be so next month they'll be presented once again, and we'll final vote on those. And speaking of those, moving on to 8.03, these are policies for second read, so once they're approved, they will become effective. So
I'll review those as well. Did
All
not
right.
receive
Thank you,
any
Dr.
additional
Wood.
questions. So 4120, domicile or residence, adds a new statutory requirement in Section D regarding the enrollment of children of military families. And that just states we want to make it easier for military who are out of town to be able to enroll remotely. So definitely want to do that to support our families. 7820, personnel files. We updated the description in subsection F1. Public record information employee personnel files in accordance to a state law change. So that's also required. And then next, we created a new section G regarding information about central office employees that must be posted online. We've talked about this a lot. We are definitely in compliance with that. We've had all of our information on since August when it was supposed to be there. 6125, administering medicines to students. I don't know where meetings came in there. That was summer 2025. We changed epinephrine auto injector device to epinephrine delivery system. So we did that in a couple of our policies. 6340, transportation service vehicle contracts, summer 2025. references the criminal history check that we talked about in 7100. So they all kind of move together. And selection of personnel. We updated the legal references and we also updated the cross references. 5023, 6127, 7266, prevention and emergency response to severe allergic reactions, summer 2025. Again, changing epinephrine auto injector device to delivery system as required by law. 1310, I think we already did this one. 1310, 4002, parental involvement. It comes up all the time. Here we added a section. We're following new state laws where we are ensuring that students of the different biological sex do not share rooms unless approved by their parent, do not share same rooms, right? Any other recommendation would have to come from our superintendent. Updated references there, legal references and cross references. And then I think 3220 was in our other package. Yep, 3320, school trips, same one, adds language in section B from the new state law regarding school trips required, and we updated our legal references. So those two kind of go together.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ward. Board members, questions on these? Any of these we want on action, or are you okay with consent on these as well? Consent, everybody? Okay, those also will be added to the consent agenda for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ward. All right, we're going to move on to 8.04, which is the architectural contract approval for the Northwest Elementary School project, and we're bringing back Brian Cohn. Welcome again.
Good evening again. So Cabarrus County Schools and the Department of Construction have been working with Yates Kreitzberg Hughes Architects, along with Johnson Allison Horde, our attorneys, to finalize the contract for the design services for the new Northwest Area Elementary School project. Tonight we are presenting for your approval the A133-2019 agreement between owner and architect, construction manager as constructor edition in the amount of $1,777,000, pending funding approval by Cabarrus County. This agreement is structured into two phases like we have done in the past. Phase 1 includes schematic design, design development, the construction documents, as well as the procurement phase, with a total cost of $1,377,175. Phase 2 then covers the balance of their work required, which is construction administration, and then the closeout phases, with a total cost of $399,825. Cabarrus County has approved funding for Phase 1, and the remaining funds for Phase 2 proposed will be part of the fiscal year 24 requests with the LGC. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, board members, questions on this one? Okay, can you walk me through how did you negotiate that price? Is it just based on what the estimated construction cost is, or how do you get to that number?
Yeah, so they look at the work that's required, because there are some changes because we're using a larger program school, so there are some code changes that required us to move bathrooms around inside, so there's some additional schematic design work that has to take place. But I went back because I was curious as well and just looked at our last 8 projects and looked at what the average fee was for those projects on the construction contracts. And we were somewhere in the average is about 4.2% is what we were paying on the design fee based on the construction contract. What this represents, this will be somewhere between, depending on the final square footage and the final construction, or construction cost, since we don't know that. This will probably be somewhere between 3.5% and 4%. So it's well below what we've been seeing traditionally over the last 8 projects that we've contracted with.
That is a modification of a cloned school.
It is a modification.
It's a design that we've already had, so it should be a little.
Yeah, so your mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems all have to have some modifications made to them, even though the structure and the footprint of the building are the same. We're larger because we're trying to put more kids in it.
And you're confident, as you said, that this fee is in line with what we've done in the past?
Yes, sir. It's below what, industry-wide, it's below what we're seeing, yes.
Okay, those are my questions. Anybody else? All right, need a motion? No, we need to either put it on action or consent, so. What do y'all want to do? Consent? Consent? Okay, consent.
Thank you.
It's going to make next week a pretty quick meeting. So, All right, moving on to our next one, 8.05, bringing back Mr. Taylor. This is the J.M. Robinson High School cooling tower replacement. Welcome back.
Thank you. Before I get started, just so you know, this is another one of those projects that Facilities Maintenance Department has tried to accomplish for the last 12 years. So we're really getting a lot of them off of our list. But this is for the cooling tower replacement at J.M. Robinson High School. And it came in at $339,700. Our bids range from $339,700 all the way to $431,185. We asked for $437,000, so we were well within that number. If you take a look at the range, I'd also like to point out, just for full transparency, that we had a lower bid, but it had to be disqualified. The contractor took it on themselves to specify equipment that was not in our specs and would not be suitable for what we want to install there. And that was vetted through our legal team as well. Are there any questions?
So this is a bid from back in the summer. Are those prices still good?
Yes, sir. Now this bid is within the last month or so.
Okay. Questions, board members? All right, in that case, do we want to put it on consent or we want to put it on action? Got consent over here, head shakes this way. That'll be another one to our consent agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we will move on to 8.06, which is our Culture and Web STEM Elementary School boundary recommendation. And this is the boundary that's been put online for the last couple of weeks, but I don't think we've officially discussed it here at a public meeting. So welcome, Dr. Bowers, and podium's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to see you, members of the board, and Dr. Kopicki. Here tonight, I am certainly pleased to bring before you a recommendation that we have for the new Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary Replacement School. This has been a project that has been going on now 5 months in the making. It has certainly gone through various iterations along the way. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank some of the people who have really been instrumental in helping this. First and foremost, I want to say that our parents and our community members have been phenomenal. We've had a chance to engage and meet with them along the way and certainly solicit feedback and input. And they've really, truly helped us really see some of the things that are important to them, take those factors into consideration, which will be part of the recommendation, and also some student assignment recommendations that we bring before you tonight. Also want to thank the board, certainly with questions that we've really received from you, really setting the vision for this, putting that certainly in motion, which has allowed us to be able to set those guiding criteria and look at the project through that lens so that we can say that we are certainly meeting that with where we land for final recommendation. And we have countless members of our district staff that have certainly been helpful, and from Mr. Furr and the communications team has really been instrumental. I want to thank him, Mr. Cohn and Ms. Lane. We could not have done it without either of their experience and their input, just with some of the data and then with some of the just key metrics of the project. So I'm humbled to stand here on behalf of a lot of folks who have had a hand in this, and certainly I will do my best to make sure I do them well. So if we think for tonight, just with the presentation itself, want to just review the framework for the criteria, and then from that want to take a review of the boundary considerations. Just so the general public knows and our stakeholders know, there were several iterations of what we considered, but for various reasons, they definitely did not deliver what we were looking for the best model and the best recommendation for our students. Also want to take a moment to look at the boundary recommendation in depth, allow for there any questions at the conclusion of the presentation that need clarification, and then also weigh in once again with the feedback that we got from our stakeholders at the last community meeting on November the 12th. And so we were able to hear from them on what some of their concerns would be, and then be able to address those as we move forward into the next phase of the project. And then lastly, I want to identify what the next steps would be for us moving forward and what that timeline would look like with a final recommendation. So as always, I like to begin with the quote unquote end in mind here, and that's really arriving at a boundary that is going to be able to deliver on those key criteria with really shaped and framed our work moving forward. Not only for this project, but previous project as well. And when we look at this, we want to make sure that we're giving recommendations that are grounded in utilization of our school facilities, making sure we're being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars when we look at creating boundaries that are designed to fully utilize schools as they were intended to be utilized. We also want to make sure that we're giving attention to the feeder networks within the schools themselves. Where will students matriculate? Where will they go next? And how does that then impact them as they travel together in cohorts together? We want to be mindful of proximity and the distance that parents travel, certainly and students travel, whether that be through bus or their own parent-provided transportation. And then ultimately want to ensure that when possible, that we're certainly giving attention to schools that are representative of the district makeup as a whole. We certainly have heard about just the demographics and how much we have to celebrate here in Cabarrus County Schools, and making sure that our student bodies are representative of that as well, so that we can have deep, enriching experiences with one another. So, bit of a review here. When did we start? It was back in August when we came before you and had the project kick off and outlined the timeline. We then moved into the month of September, and we started seeing more meetings taking place, engaging with members of the community, engaging with you as the board as well, and then starting to put together our internal review team for some of those behind the scenes. Let's look at the data. Let's have some discussions about boundary recommendations. That then led us then into the month of October, where once again we continue to provide updates. We continue to refine some of the metrics that were at the heart of the boundary proposal itself. And then the month of November, we were able to take this to the community and share this very presentation, or at least a similar version of it, with the community as well, and inform them of what's coming, what they can expect, and have a chance for them to engage in dialogue and ask questions throughout the process as well. So the first boundary consideration, as a bit of review here, was looking at what would happen if we were just to take the former Beverly Hills Elementary School boundary and combine it with the current Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary School boundary. So when reviewing that data, you could see these are the schools that would have been impacted by that, because they're the ones that are in adjacent areas to the current Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary School. This model here would have moved essentially 317 students for the new boundary assignment. There would have been 99 students that are double impacted. And when I say double impacted, those would have been students that were moved under the previous realignment that would also potentially be moved under this current proposal as well. So nearly about 100 students there. When we look at the Beverly Hills Legacy students, that number there represents the students who attended Beverly Hills Elementary School who would live outside of this proposed boundary and would have an opportunity to attend the new school if they so chose. So when we speak to the legacy students, those would be ones that are beyond the boundary that you're seeing presented before you. And then ultimately, how many schools will be impacted? That would be 4. Royal Oaks, Wyankoff, Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary School, and then W.M. Irvin Elementary School. Weddington Hills would not be impacted at all underneath this particular consideration. So again, when we measured it back, what are those key criteria? As always, that was our go-to say, did this meet what we had certainly set out to accomplish? We could see from a utilization standpoint, it really did not deliver for all the schools that would have been involved. It would have been opening here, essentially, Weddington Hills, first of all, would get no relief whatsoever. And again, they're sitting at 100% utilization with just over 1,000 students now. We would see the utilizations drop at Irvin, we would see the utilization drop at Royal Oaks, and we would see the utilization drop at Wyankoff. It created challenges for feeder splits. This would create a feeder split from Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary, of which 87% of the students would go to Concord Middle, and a very small percentage would then go to Winkler Middle School, which would be their middle school assignment. So again, that does not land where we like to at least set a baseline, and that's around 80%, 20%. When we looked at this from proximity, we saw about half the schools moving closer to district average, half the schools moving farther, so a bit of a split there. And then ultimately, when we looked at it through the demographics, same thing. Ultimately, about half the schools were moving closer to district averages, others were moving farther away. So ultimately, the team, upon review, did not feel as if this was the best deliverable or best option moving forward for students, for families, and really for the community as a whole. Which then led to a second consideration. The secondary consideration, again, focused primarily on the areas, planning blocks, adjacent to the current elementary school. So when those areas were at least reviewed for possible inclusion, what we found is that a boundary that would essentially extend the southern boundary of Coltrane Webb from Corbin Avenue over to Cabarrus Avenue, and they would run north along US 29, and then from US 29 would then, where it intersects with McGill, would travel then eastbound to the railroad line that runs along the boundary, follow the railroad line north, and then have ultimately come back across by using their Davidson Drive, Lake Concord Road, and ultimately Burridge Road until we came to Branchview, followed Branchview South, then we came across Branchview, it would then go across Brookwood, and you can see the outline. So again, that gave us a starter to review there to say, what would this option look like, and what might we expect if this were to be the recommendation moving forward? And ultimately, what we found is that there would be 3 in-schools impacted underneath this proposal: Irvin, Coltrane Webb, and Weddington Hills. But the number of students would be 208 students, which is smaller than what we saw with the first consideration. The number of students double impacted does go down. 56 students that would have been moved under the previous realignment, and then those 56 here would be impacted for the second time again in 3 years. The legacy students, there would be 80 students outside the boundary that attended Beverly Hills Elementary School that, should they choose to come to this new school assignment, they would have the option to do so. Ultimately, this concept was removed because when we match it back against the guiding criteria, utilization for Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary School opens at 80%. So really not capitalizing upon the additional seats and the capacity for the school itself, and looking long term to say that we would have a replacement population built in. We'd also see that Weddington Hills, while their enrollment does drop from 120% utilization to 107, it doesn't deliver quite the relief that one would think we were hoping to obtain with this particular recommendation or this boundary process. When we look at it from the feeder network, we could see our split gets a little closer to what would be that 80-20, but we're still at 79-21, where 21% of the students, and those would be those that are going to be west of the railroad line, will go to Winkler Middle School. When we looked at our proximity, we see here that Coltrane Webb and Irvin move closer to the district average, and Weddington Hills proximity moves farther, but it should be noted that Weddington Hills proximity drops, so students would actually be traveling fewer distance on average, again, for that particular boundary. And then when we looked at the demographics, we saw that 3 of the schools, from a demographic standpoint, moved closer to what would be the average median income for households. So across all 3 schools impacted, we saw this. 1 of the 3 schools moves closer to the district average when we look at the educational attainment for the households. And then 2 out of the 3 schools ultimately move closer when we look at what would be multilingual learners and that average across the elementary schools in the district. So again, it's getting closer to where we had hoped to be, but the team felt that there may be another option that was better suited for the students and the families and the boundary and what would be a recommendation moving forward. And that brings us to the final recommendation that we have to share before you tonight. And again, as I mentioned previously, had been shared with the community at the November the 12th community meeting at R. Brown McAllister Elementary School. So, very similar to the one you just saw. What it does is it does add another planning block, several planning blocks actually, north of McGill that are on the western side of the railroad line, and that area would then follow essentially US 29 up until it turns into Concord Parkway. So kind of a little bit larger area that would be included, still adjacent to the planning blocks that were under the previous proposal. And for this particular boundary, you can see here what are going to be those red road networks that outline this recommendation. From a metric standpoint, again, we're looking at 3 schools that would be impacted: Coltrane Webb, Irvin, and again, Weddington Hills. But what we find is that it impacts a few more students than the previous recommendation. We're up to 247. But you notice here that there's no change in the number of students double impacted, And there's no change in the number of students that attended Beverly Hills that would be outside of the boundary, which would be 80 students. And for your reference, what have been included on this slide as well are the number of rising what would be fifth graders at Irvin and the number of rising fifth graders at Weddington Hills, just so you could see those numbers and what impact it would have in those transitional grades. So for Irvin, that would be 27, and then for Weddington Hills, that would be 28. So when we look at the utilization tables for this in the boundary recommendation, we found that this one creates more of an optimal utilization for for Coltrane Webb. It puts us closer to 90% utilization, which when opening new schools is that ideal threshold we want to certainly try and target. It also allows there to be less utilization at Weddington Hills. We see now all of a sudden it drops back closer to 100% utilization, which is where we would like to be when operating schools, nor more than when possible. When we looked at it from a feeder network, it creates a larger percentage of students that would travel together to the next school in sequence. So we see now here, 73% of students would go to Concord Middle, and 27% here would travel together as a cohort to Winkler. So again, more kids traveling together as a cohort to the next school for the next grade matriculation. For proximity, we find here that Coltrane Webb and Irvin move closer to the district average. Again, Weddington Hills, the average distance travel will drop, but again, it drops by moving farther away from the district average, but students and families on average would have shorter distances to travel. So it creates a little bit of a tighter boundary network or boundary for Weddington Hills Elementary School as well. And then demographically, no different than between this one and then the previous consideration that was shared. 3 out of the 3 schools, their average median household income moves closer to the district average. We see 1 of the 3 schools' educational attainment moves closer, the other 2 do not. And then ultimately with multilingual learners, we see 2 schools moving closer and 1 school does not. And I'll go on to describe that in a little bit more detail with some other tables. So, a review. This gives you the utilization table one would expect with the recommendation that we have before you tonight. 247 students that would be impacted in totality. Of that 247, 56 that would be double impacted. Of the 56 that are double impacted, it is important to note 27 of those would be rising 5th graders at Irvin. So the difference there is certainly a number to certainly keep in mind as we move forward with the recommendation. There are no students from Weddington Hills that would be double impacted. So under this particular recommendation, that scenario would not play out, so we would not see any of those families that would fall into that category. You can see here for each of the 3 schools what their current enrollment is, what their design capacity is, and what the projection would be for the base enrollment, and then the base utilization. So this puts each of those 3 schools closer to a utilization standpoint that allows them to be able to utilize programmatic options and other what would be long-range projections to be able to get to a place in which they would actually be able to serve students without necessarily being stretched in their core capacity. Feeder pattern, again, shared this, I've touched on it as well. The one on the left is the current feeder pattern network, and then the feeder network graphic on the right gives you a sense of what this might look like underneath this particular recommendation. Weddington Hills does not change. 100% of students who attend Weddington Hills would still go to Winkler Middle School. It does, as I mentioned, create a bit of a split feeder now for Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary, such that 73% would go to Concord, 27% would go to Winkler. And then what you see here for Irvin, it actually improves the percentages for Irvin as well, where 66% there would go to Concord, and then the remaining 34% would go to Mount Pleasant. So it does improve Irvin's percentages of students that would actually travel together to the middle school. Once again, these are just the data behind it. When I mentioned proximity, I alluded to the fact that 2 of the 3 schools would move closer to the district average. That would be Irvin, and then that would be Coltrane Webb. And again, Weddington Hills, their average distance travel drops, moves farther away from the district average. And again, these I will preface it by saying don't look at green as good, red as bad. It's just which direction is it moving, and is it closer to the average or farther from the average? And again, average being where we try to certainly land with each of the proposals, recommendations, and options. When we look at the demographics, again, we see for all three schools, average household income that moves toward closer to the district average here, and I said average, it's average median income. And then when we were to look at what would happen from the demographic standpoint for educational attainment, as mentioned, one of the three would move closer. The other two, nominal changes with where they stand. And again, anything above 3 is considered some college classes after high school, right? And then therefore what you have a 4 that would be considered as an associate's degree. So not a lot of variance and not a tremendous amount of change there on average overall. You see here multilingual learners. 2 out of the 3 schools move closer to the district average with this recommendation. Irvin's does drop, but that does denote that it's moving farther away from the district average here. And then I mentioned our community feedback. We had a chance to be able to gather and then analyze the last round of survey data that we sent out to our community members. So as a result, at the last community meeting on November 12th, we were able to invite our stakeholders to participate in sharing their feedback, and this was made available through the actual meeting itself. And we also had the mechanism, had it available where they could go in on our website and be able to participate. And so 37 individuals took the time to be able to share their thoughts, represented 4 schools that were we had collected information from. And you can see that of the 37 responses, 23 of those came back as that they were either supportive or neutral towards the boundary recommendation. For those that were unsupportive, it is worth noting that their biggest concern was just moving and certainly reluctant to have their child move schools. And it certainly is rewarding sometimes to see that when you find families that are really happy in the schools. But as far as the recommendation, we did not solicit any, there was no feedback solicited that made recommendations to the boundary or any proposals for change there. So those are the metrics behind the boundary recommendation. What we found, again, this is where the survey is so helpful and it's so meaningful to us to get that feedback from our parents and our community members, is questions they have. What about my child in this scenario? And so we wanted to be able to, with the recommendation you have, also have some recommendations for what would be student assignment. Those caveats that will emerge at the end of the day to say, what if, how about this, I'm in this program, how does it impact me? So the first place we always start there is with what would be board policy. And so we would look at policy 4150. Policy 4150 defines what would be a homeschool assignment of students. The homeschool becomes that home area of assignment, the base school. Then from that, there are an avenue or variety of options by which students in Cabarrus County schools may attend other schools, certainly based off of what that family's needs or based on what their certain interest may be. With regards to redistricting, the redistricting policy outlines that when opening new schools and when students are moved, that there is consideration given to students in transitional grades to certainly allow them to remain. In this case, that would be rising 5th graders. So the board has allowed that within the policy. And my understanding is that that has been the practice in previous realignment or previous boundary recommendations. It does denote there that siblings would not be allowed to remain and that transportation is to be provided should an individual elect to do so. So again, just pulling directly from the policy, we do see these as kind of the foundational pieces upon which the recommendation would be grounded. Now, we did outline and note that there is a provision that has been made as a part of this project from the start that any student that attended Beverly Hills Elementary School and was not a part of the new boundary would have a chance to attend if he or she elected to do so. So when we speak of that, that becomes the Beverly Hills Legacy provision, and those are the 80 students that I had referenced earlier that reside outside the boundary. They would have an intent that would be shared with them to say, hey, if you like, you too can attend as well. That provision would be grounded again back in what board allows for those transfers, and that would be transportation would be at the responsibility of the parent as well, but they would certainly be welcome to attend. Then we have centralized placement, or students that are at certain programs because they're placed there, whether that be through IEP needs, or whether that be through other services that are certainly being delivered. Meeting with our student services team, and again, having them as part of an internal review team, there would be no change in those placement options for those students. So being placed in a particular program or a setting for a particular school, it would follow the child's IEP. And then those decisions would then be made with the child's IEP and the IEP team as well. And then request for reassignment, I just share that with you as well. That can be found in policy 4150, section D. The unique aspect of both of the schools involved too is that we have several programmatic offerings as well. We have a dual language immersion program at Irvin Elementary School. We have an STEM program at both Irvin and Coltrane Webb. And then we have the IB program at Weddington Hills. So each of these would present different pathway options for students who are currently being served in those programs. And again, I credit our curriculum and instruction team for being a part of this process as well, in thinking through these scenarios and looking for opportunities to make sure that we continue to serve students with those interests that they have and allow them to find that continuation until the terminal grade level within the school. So for those students who are in the immersion program, dual immersion program at Irvin, they would have the opportunity to remain within the dual language immersion, Spanish immersion program at Irvin Elementary School. Even if they were to be reboundaried for Coltrane Webb, they would have the chance to continue to attend Irvin. Another recommendation that came out of this as well is what would be for IB students at Weddington Hills. So students at Weddington Hills, because it is an IB school, it is a total school IB program, they would have the option to remain in the IB program if they're rebounding, if they elect to do so. Again, that option would be for the parent, for the student themselves, but making that provision available, the program choice team would identify those students and they would be given priority consideration for the lottery when those lottery seats are made available for program choice. We also have STEM programming. And the STEM programming is a little easier to be able to communicate because if I'm at Irvin and I'm in STEM and I'm reboundaried, we have STEM programming at Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary School as well, so we would allow to be able to continue to serve the student in that environment. In this last part, we've added in here just as to if I were to express interest in one of these, how would I go about doing it? It would either be through an application, the program choice, or an intent form if you're currently at Irvin for the dual language immersion program to remain. And we would coordinate our efforts with the schools to identify those families, reach out to them individually, and being able to walk them through what that process would look like should they have questions about it. So this brings us to the next steps piece. Where we are, the dates that are on the calendar, and those items that are looming. Obviously tonight, here with you for the recommendation. There'll be an opportunity for public comment tonight as well for those to come and certainly speak and share their thoughts on the recommendation as well. We then would be positioned for a consideration of the boundary recommendation next Monday for the board. But in the interim, what we'll begin doing is, beginning on the 3rd of this week, start meeting with some school level contacts. The school level contact would be the person that's responsible for handling the questions about realignment or the boundary recommendation at the school level. And we would be meeting with them early and often to try to resource them and support them and give them some communication techniques as they reach out to families, and also be able to help answer the FAQs that they may have from the school level as well. You could then see after what we hope would be a boundary approval, then we'll start messaging with families immediately after that. Then we will do that through both US mail and we will do that through both Parent Square, all right, to ensure that we've cast the widest net for being able to communicate with those that would be impacted. And then we'd start working with intent forms to get a sense on who may elect to stay in a current seat based on the provisions we've outlined, and who would certainly be interested in attending the new school boundary as well. District-wide program choice window closes on the 14th. curriculum and instruction, again, I thank them for their role in this. They understand the nuances to navigate on this as well, and so they will be giving considerations to those families impacted by the realignment decision. And that 14th is something we can work with families on a case-by-case basis and make sure that they've had time to weigh this properly and be able to express their interest if they choose to do so beyond the 14th. And then ultimately, we would try to close all of our windows by the 21st, which is when we actually enter into winter break. I've covered a lot, I know that. I will certainly pause now, allow for any questions, clarification that you may have.
Okay, board members, this will be an action item next week, but now's an opportunity for your questions or thoughts, or, ma'am?
Yeah, thank you so much for all this and the detail, because I was like, I have a question, and then you answered my question. So a lot of this stuff
You taught me well.
We try. We have lots of questions. I would just like to add, I appreciate the people who came out to the meeting at talking about this, where you presented this the first time. I thought that was very helpful to understand how families are feeling. This question is coming from that. So transportation becomes so there's about a little less than 60 kids that are 5th graders right now that have the option of, if we follow what we normally do, they will have the option to stay in 5th grade next year at the school that they're at. But their parent is responsible for transportation to get them to and from. If they decide to stay in program choice, if they share that they want to do Spanish, or they want to do IB, or if they want, well, that's it, right? Because STEM is going to send you back to your school. Is there a possibility for hub stops for that? And I know that we won't know until, but is that a possibility?
So one of the things I'll offer is that we review our hub stops for program choice annually, and that is driven by demand. So if we have enough interested persons, when we actually collect the registration information on the front end, who upon receiving the seat, we ask about, is there interest in transportation? We then try to look and match what would be the best place where we could serve the greatest number of students. So is the option there? Yes, ma'am, it is. As you said, it's tough to really predict and offer that guarantee in advance, because if it's one or two, that does add a resource, and that resource does take away from some things that we're able to service elsewhere.
And am I correct in thinking that it's about a dozen? You need a dozen kids to fill a little bus?
That would be correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Melanie?
Thank you. And this is, again, one of those, there's slides all over my mind right now. And so I would like to see, of the 3 propositions that you had, a comparison slide that put them all on the same slide, so where we could see the numbers changing, so we don't have to keep going from all these multiple pages.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. I can bring that to you
Okay,
next week.
thank you.
Or would you like it before then?
Fine.
Jonathan, we could talk this week when we meet, and you could hand it to me. I'll get it to the board.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Sure. The other thing is, I'm thinking worst case scenario, you had 80 legacy people. If they all elected to go to one school, that is that's like 10%. That would, of a 700 enrollment school, are we taking into consideration, if people make a decision, how that's going to affect it? And the same thing with people who are now outside the boundary in the program choices. Are they going to continue to, are they in these numbers?
So, good question. So we have scenarios to where we can actually account for each of those, and under each given scenario in which the maximum number of students would select or elect to attend the school, we are fully prepared to be able to house those students within the new school.
Okay, and that would that adjust those utilizations?
Yes, ma'am, it would.
And numbers?
That's correct.
Okay. That was kind of what I was wanting to see. How does that shift them? but they're already included in this, is what you're saying.
So we would take, so 654, which is the base enrollment allotment for what would be Coltrane Webb STEM Elementary underneath the boundary. So you would just add those 80 students into that, which would then get us to 734.
Which would make the number of program choice seats less in that case, because you're working on availability.
Yes,
correct?
but we've also factored in what would be historical transfer in, transfer outs as well.
Okay.
And so the transfer in really speaks to that program choice. We do it we call them transfer in, transfer outs.
Okay.
That way we can account for all the kids who over time have elected to attend a school for various reasons, one or another. Those would be baked into it as well. 734, the school is built for 756, so puts us closer to what would be that 100% utilization, but we're equipped to handle it.
Okay, if I can get that slide, that would really help me. Thank you.
Greg?
You guys have done a great job on communication throughout the process. I really appreciate it. The neighborhood meetings, everything else has been excellent. The question I have though is, this will be approved on the 8th, and the new boundary message to the impacted families on 12/9. Am I to assume correctly that what we've done in terms of communication has been sort of a broadcast mode, and now we're getting down to the actual individuals?
Yes, sir. That's exactly
Is there
right.
any way we can notify those families in advance of the approval meeting so they would have the opportunity to speak during public comment at next week's meeting? Or do we need to have that approved before you make that targeted message to the impacted families?
Dr. Kopicki?
It's a very good question, but I think it'd be more appropriate for the approval to take place. We need the approval really to kind of move forward to the next steps. It would be it'd be a large undertaking to do that prior to the approval. So I think, and I do feel as though, and I understand your question well, but I do feel as though that over the last 5 or 6 months that Dr. Bowers and his team, as he's elegantly alluded to this evening, really communicated very well to the community. I truly believe, nothing's 100%, but I do believe most people are anticipating, this process to take place next. Not the process to take place, but I think they're aware the process has been going on for the last 5 or 6 months. The school's been being built. There's a lot of reach out on our part to make sure that they're aware of. So I think they've done a really good job in the communication piece. But I do understand your question. I don't think anything's 100% foolproof, but I think the approval is what we really need first. Then we can kind of go out and reach out to everybody individually.
Yes, sir. And my pause was more or less, we have communicated with them. So that's what I wanted to share with you, is that has been done not only through our internal communication means. We did that prior to the November 12th meeting. So we targeted the folks in this boundary.
So you're confident that these impacted families have already been made well aware that they could be impacted. They're just now going to, on the backside of the board approval, be notified that they have been impacted.
I am firmly confident that we have sent the messaging out. Yes, sir. And not only through our internal means, Mr. Furr actually worked with the city of Concord. Mm-hmm. We actually gave them the boundary, and they contacted residents within that boundary. So and that's, again, I was pausing to say, we have done that. Again, another messaging effort. That's where we've gotten our feedback from our surveys.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
On this side? Catherine?
I would just like to say I appreciate all the work your team has done, because with all these numbers, it took a lot of time. And saving us the cost of hiring an outside firm of coming in here and doing this for us. You have certainly looked at every factor, every area, every situation for our students and our schools, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for that feedback. And again, all the credit goes to the team. Thank you.
Sam?
So our point of contact at the school levels, do you see that being an administrator or counselor or up to the principal, or?
We have recommended an administrator.
Okay, just curious.
Yes, sir.
Okay, a few questions on my side. Again, because it's a little bit related to what Melanie was talking about. If you go to slide 14.
Tell me when I get there. I don't have it numbered on my side.
It's enrollment and utilization. Keep going. There you go.
Okay.
Oops.
Oops. My apologies.
All right, so we have 247 that are impacted, right? Right?
That's correct.
So the students double impacted is part of that number,
Yes.
but the Beverly Hills Legacy students are outside the boundary is not part of that number.
No, sir.
And the rising fifth grade students would be subtracted from that number, potentially.
So the rising fifth grade students
Uh-huh.
are included in the 247.
Correct, so, but
Yes, if they elect not to, you're exactly right.
so you're
You'd
subtract,
pull-
then you would
Yes,
be
sir. That is
subtract-
correct.
subtracting, okay, that's what I'm trying to understand exactly where
Yeah.
we're going there. And then we can talk more about program choice. We have limited seating at Culture and Web now because of the size of the temporary building. This gives you the opportunity to allow more students to come that are interested in STEM
Yes, sir.
on the west side of the county to get STEM because we'll have more seats for that.
Most definitely it does.
And it also, Weddington Hills needs to be relieved some way. There's no really other option, is there, to, at this point? I don't know what other options we would have to help that population.
So again, this option, the recommendation, it offers the greatest relief for Weddington Hills. To your point, there's really not anything else out there we could tap into right now.
Yeah, so we need to do something, and this is the option to do that. So I understand that, so it makes sense to me. And have we reached out in different languages to families, or has it just been English? Because there's a lot of Hispanic families in some of that area.
Yeah, so the Parent Square mechanism auto-translates. I was looking to see the City of Concord. I don't know if, yeah, we're kind of at the mercy of whatever mass communication they do.
Right, we just haven't had, I mean, you had the public meeting, but there was very sparse attendance. You had seating for dozens, and you might have had a dozen people. So, you know, I'm not sure how many of those folks realized. I know the people that were there were concerned about staying at the school that they wanted to stay at. And you did a good job of explaining what options they may have, so thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to comment and share their feedback to us before we vote on this. So our next item here is to have a public hearing. Haven't had anybody sign up ahead of time, but probably not too many people here that want to comment. But if not, they have next week during our public comment period will be their last opportunity to reach out to the board before we vote on this.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure that message is out there to people.
Yes.
Because we want to hear from you.
We do.
I mean, if there's something we missed, we want to hear that. So.
And that's why we set up 2 community meetings at the school this year as well, to try to cast the widest net possible to hear from those. And thank you again. For those who came out, their information, their feedback was super helpful.
Yeah, and one of those things that they pulled me aside and said, "Hey, what are we doing for those double impacted students?
Yes, sir.
Can we keep them together? What do we do with them?" So that was brought to my attention, and again, I guess it goes back to the principal and how they handle that. But I appreciate the justification. I just want to make sure that the public is aware before we vote on it, and gives us their feedback. They can email us. They can come next week. There's plenty of ways to reach us. So. Pam.
Thank you. I will just say that I want to thank the principals who came to that meeting, because there were parents that had questions about, can we keep these students together? And the reaction I had from one of the principals was, yeah, we work on that. We always do that. And we have experience with redistricting in all of our schools because of what happened a couple years ago. So from what I understand, we do take care of those students. That is something that's a top priority. So I thought that conversation was helpful to hear, and it wasn't necessarily for the whole room. The other thing that I would just to help Melanie is, and I think it was the last month presentation, but we do know, we did send out a survey about do you intend the legacy students. So I don't, from what I understand from those results, now I understand not everyone participated, but they were given the option to and a lot of people opened that email, that the vast majority don't want to go to the new school. So is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So we can actually, again, as part of the review of information, we can share that. What we found is that of those who responded, there were a significant number that are outside of this boundary and did not want to go to the new school, but they won't be rebounding for the new school. Right? So we actually have those breakdowns. I don't want to misspeak as to what it is, but we have a good feel of what those numbers are.
Last opportunity here. Okay. Procedurally, I guess we're going to opportunity to have a public comment period on this proposed elementary school boundary. Again, realizing there's not too many people here, so they will have another opportunity next week, but specifically, can I have a motion and a second to open the public comment period?
So moved.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Melanie. So it is an action item, yes. All right, so we are open to the public comment period, and we'll give speakers an opportunity to talk to us as individual for 3 minutes and as a group for 5 minutes. I don't think we had anybody signed up ahead of time. Is there anybody in the room that would like to speak on the boundary recommendation? Going once, going twice. All right, so I'd need a motion and a second to close our. Thank you, Sam. Second, who's taking it? Shannon, okay. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. All right, so that public hearing is now closed, or public comment period is now closed. So that was our last item in our open session. We do have a need for a closed session. There is a lengthy reasoning for that, but again, it goes to statute 143-318-11 to consult with an attorney for the preserve the attorney-client privilege, talk about the cases that are out there, and also what do we got? To consider confidential personnel matters. And I think those were the two, 318-11 and 318-11A5 and A6. So could I have a motion and a second to go into closed session? Second. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Pam. All in favor of moving into closed session, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, we'll say goodnight to our listening audience, and we will see you next week at our business meeting.